Dhawan sought to rely on the judgment of R.C. Podial. If my lord sees, to my understanding, federal diversity in the Indian Constitution exists on a two-dimensional plane. At the center would, as far as I understand, would be the classical states, would be the classical understanding of a state, the state which has fully governed by Schedule 7 and other provisions of the Constitution. To the right of it would be states which have limited special features, would be states like the limited features like Gujarat or Maharashtra, all taken through by Dr. Dhawan. Thereafter would be states which say fall under the fifth schedule and the sixth schedule, and some other states which have further special features. To the right end of it, perhaps, was the erstwhile Article 370. What the petitioners forget, my lords, is that there is a scale to the left of it as well. The scale to the left of it is the union territories with legislature, is the union territory of the GNCT of Delhi, and further, perhaps, pure and simple union territories. Therefore, federal diversity, my lords, it's undoubted that diversity is a constitutional fact, but not all constitutional facts can be elevated to the level of basic structure. When we adopt the identity test in terms of identification of basic structure, not all constitutional facts become basic structures. R.C. Podial was relied upon to further the argument that this diversity, a manifestation of which was Article 370, erstwhile Article 370, is a part of basic structure. Incidentally, my lords, para 128 was read in R.C. Podial. If my lord sees the last three lines of para 128, I think that those last three lines itself completely demolish the case of the petitioners on federal diversity, because those last three lines itself indicate that these provisions which were in consideration in R.C. Podial were for a limited transitional period. The word transitional has been used. Therefore, my lords, as far as the fact that federal diversity may be integral, it would not necessarily lead to it being a basic structure. The method and the methodology adopted by the union, whether under 368 or 373, has been fully taken care of. I don't wish to address it further. The second point is on, my lords, constituent assembly and the nature and the nomenclature of constituent assembly. Mr. Gopal Subramaniam specifically highlighted that there are no hierarchies. That was his submission, that there are no. At a normative level, that's an absolutely correct statement. There cannot be any hierarchies in constituent assembly. However, there are not many things that move on a normative level in Jammu and Kashmir. There are three facts in this regard that my lords need to see. There are two kinds of constituent power. One is original constituent power, and the other could be derivative constituent power. It was on this jurisprudential basis that Keshwanand Bharti was delivered, and thereafter other judgments, which state that the original constituent power is always with the original constituent assembly, the plenary power. But derivative constituent power is something that is always with further legislatures, the parliament in this case. Therefore, the question that we need to interrogate is whether the Constituent Assembly of the Jammu and Kashmir Constituent Assembly had any original constituent power. The three facts, which according to me clearly point towards the fact that they had no original constituent power, were A, it was established under the proclamation of a Maharaja that had already signed an instrument of accession. Number two,
yes, Chancellor.
It's there in the three page.
Yes.
Number two, the Maharaja had already issued a proclamation dated 25/11/1949, recognizing the supremacy of the Indian Constitution. And number three, unequivocally, Article 1 was in force. So on the date in 1951, when the proclamation to establish the Constituent Assembly of Jammu and Kashmir was issued, the Maharaja, who was not a sovereign, could not have passed a better title than what he had. If he was not a sovereign, the Constituent Assembly of Jammu and Kashmir could never have been a sovereign Constituent Assembly, could never have established a sovereign constitution. The suggestion from the other side is that under 370 sub-article 3, they could have severed their ties with India at the time of dissolution of the Constituent Assembly. My lords, I submit that is an absolute impossibility as far as the Indian Constitution is concerned, because Article 1 would have applied to them irrespective of the nature of Article 370.
Which is the page of your written submission? In the
That's page 2.
No, in the volume 3?
My lords, that is not there in volume 3.
I cut those.
My lords, if my lords allow, please.
All right, thank you.
Please, my lords. Just one more aspect, my lords.
Yes.
If the J&K Constituent Assembly had no original constituent powers, it automatically exercised only derivative constituent powers. If it is exercising derivative constituent powers, it is akin to a legislative assembly. My lords, one of the letters that was highlighted by Mr. Shankar Narayan was a letter by Rajendra Prasad to Mr. Nehru. My lords may remember 1952, 6th
Yes.
of September, I think, 1952 by Rajendra Prasad. That letter finds mention in Mr. Noorani's book at volume 20, page PDF 222, I believe. Mr. Noorani has done a lot of research. He should have also pulled out the letter which was written by the then Prime Minister, Mr. Nehru, in reply to the letter of Rajendra Prasad. Mr. Nehru wrote a letter dated 7/11/1952 to Mr. Rajendra Prasad on a host of issues after Mr. Rajendra Prasad had also written a letter to the then Home Minister K.M. Munshi. And he highlighted the fact that how this issue has been discussed with the law officers of the union at the highest level with Mr. Gopalaswamy Iyengar and with other people. I have annexed it to my note, my lords. And therefore requested the president, requested being the word, requested the president to consider passing the CO. That was on 7th of November 1952. Within 8 days, my lords, the learned president passed the CO 44, which was 15/11/1952 under 373, thereby changing Maharaja to Sadar area. Therefore, my lords, I think the SG had also pointed it out that actions speak louder than words. That is all that I
Yes, Mr. Vikram.
Well, I'll just make a